Hello, everyone. We are back live. Welcome again after a short break. We are back in the Humanize Tech panel at this Tech Leadership Lab Summit. We are exploring the intersection of climate, AI, and humanity. So what I'm taking from this first hour is that the change is not solely in the realm of technology. It is in our humanity itself. We are embarking on a grassroots movement, a transformation of consciousness. It's a movement that transcends the boundaries of science and technology, and it's driven by the recognition of our innate potential as human beings. So we did get a lot of questions in the chat. Thank you so much to all of you in the audience for supporting us. We will start with the first question, which was directed to Lisa. Lisa was our first speaker in the first hour. So Lisa, this question is for you. Someone is asking what lessons from the past could help us navigate today's exceptional growth in a way that considers both humanity and urgency. The mic is yours.
Thanks for reminding me to turn it on. Uh, our ancestors left behind a tremendous amount of wisdom, from their collective experience and individual experience. And so one of the things that I do in my spare time is I study medicine, first indigenous medicine where I grew up. And then when I was in China for 10 years, I studied Chinese medicine. Then the last 6 years, Tibetan medicine, India medicine. And one of the things I've learned is that our ancestors knew a lot more than we give them credit for. And they went through a lot more than we realize. And so these books, these poems, these songs, these medical books, these astrology books, because this wisdom in many, many, many cultures, Africa, people don't talk about Africa enough, Africa, North Africa, the Asian continents, where the central populations were, South America, the island nations, they have a wealth of wisdom gathered from the experience that they individually and collectively went through. And if a person prioritizes their self-cultivation, their willingness to be open to other people's points of view, that we are living out some of the choices that our ancestors made. And our DNA, of course, is a liquid neural net of memory, very much stored in our water. There's so much information that you can say, you can see I'm trying to how to answer that question. There's so much out there, and you get to choose what feels authentic to you. You get to feel, using what Robin said, you get to feel what is important to you. You're the one that crafts your 24-hour cycle, including, what you imagine while you're falling asleep at night, and alter your states and move your consciousness out so that your body can do its regenerative cycle. And also you're the one that greets, your reentry in the morning when you're waking yourself up and pouring your consciousness back into the body and starting to live this, physical experience for a few hours every 24-hour cycle. I think the quickest, shortest answer would be our ancestors knew a lot about where the heck we go when we alter our state and move our consciousness out of our body, and our body regenerates at night, and we're somewhere else. Our consciousness is somewhere else doing something else. There's a multi-dimensional, multi-planes of existence. And most technologists that I know, bringing it back around, they are people who work in teams, because you can't invent technology on your own. They're using their imagination. And a lot of them learn not just computing languages, but languages of the ancient cultures, or they come from cultures where they speak ancient languages. And very much every technology we've ever imagined into being on this planet is based on the human mind, body, and spirit. That's our inspiration, always. Liquid neural nets, um, neuromorphic computing, um, spatial dynamics, spatial relationships, self-revelatory insightfulness, which is the original authentic intelligence. AI also stands for authentic intelligence, not just artificial. So the key is not taking yourself for granted, so that you're not just walking unconsciously on this earth, but anything you choose to bring in to your suit through your sensory abilities, whether it's sight or smell or taste or touch or feeling, or future as far as precognitively, premonitionally, or any kind of creative work that you do, imagining your future, whatever you're going to bring into the suit so that you experience it during your eyes are open period of time during the 24-hour cycle. Use yourself as the central, most important figure in your life, your self-leadership abilities, because you are crafting, no matter what your DNA is, no matter what your ancestral trauma is, or uh, uh, there will be the data in you, not just of the trauma, but also the wisdom of your ancestors overcoming the trauma. Or if they didn't, if your grandparents or great great grandparents didn't overcome their particular earth experiences, you still can transform those memories simply through leading, by being present and putting yourself on the throne, as the centralmost figure of your life, so that you are um, navigating. You're the driver in the driver's seat. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, foot on the steering wheel, looking at the road straight ahead. You're taking in, um, with that understanding that what other people have been through is what other people have been through. It's not what you've been through. And so there's a sense of putting yourself first, putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, which includes intaking and interpreting all that data, all that data that's out in the liquid neural net called space. It's there for you to discern, but not mimic, but to be individually crafting your own personal experience, which is, yeah, you can't escape that actually. So it's by design. But where people end up generating additional trauma for themselves or suffering is when they give up their seat of authority within themselves, and they try to mimic someone they have perceived is smarter than them, or kinder than them, or nicer than them. And that kind of judgment system will create a deficit in your energetic network, where you will feel de-energized by that thought stream, by that belief system. So if you can spend part of your 24-hour day reading your energy levels and being cognizant that you generate your own energy through what you eat, what you drink, and what you breathe. We don't generate energy through sleep. That's a regeneration stage. We use up our energy at night. We actually generate energy for our body, our mind, during the day through what we eat, what we drink, and what we breathe. And so paying attention to caretaking of yourself, your own personal well-being, it will balance your perception of reality. It will balance your chemistry. So our ancestors talked a lot about how your chemistry was created in futuristically while you're imagining what you want to do but you haven't done yet, what you're pouring into your suit and then manifests in the physical realm as your presence and your present time that you're experiencing. Our ancestors knew clearly, without a doubt, that the chemistry that co-creates that experience or is created through that experience is created futuristically through what you're imagining for yourself. It's pre-creation, it's precognition. It's at the basis of every indigenous wisdom. And so I guess I'm always bringing it back to self leadership, self realization, self revelation, self cultivation, self determination, self consciousness, self awareness, self love, self individualization, self respect, self dignity, self empowerment, self ownership, self permission, self authenticity.
Beautiful, Lisa. Amazing. Wow. This is, again, more wisdom than you will ever hear on any other panel, I think. Thank you so much. I did see Dr. Robin Rise and Dr. Brian Allman resonate a lot with what has been said. If you want to add something before we move on to the next question, feel free to unmute yourself.
Robin, would you
All
like to
right,
add
go,
something? Because I would. Huh? Yeah.
go ahead,
Okay.
Brian. Go ahead.
So, okay, adding to what Lisa just said, that we actually have learned, again, from people by asking questions and listening to them, that there are actually 48 hours in every day, 24 on the inside and 24 on the outside. So don't waste a moment. We all have those 86,400 moments a day, but there's 24 on the inside, 24 on the outside. And uh, yeah, that's an important one for everybody to know, because when we're living in our outer world, whatever we're doing, we're also living simultaneously with our inner world. And what Robin, pointed to before, we are emotionally driven beings. That's what really drives us, how we feel. It's not just what we're thinking, because our feelings tend to impact what we're thinking, and our bodies follow our heart and our head. So another point that Lisa made that I think is important is that, we know that the past is behind us. Like when we drive a car or ride a bike or we're walking, or when we're driving, you see the rearview mirror, and we can see the past behind us, our ancestors, our generations, our development of our neural networks, our mind, body, heart, and soul. The past is always behind us. Now, if we drive staring into the rearview mirror all the time, we're going to bump and crash into a lot of things. So we want to check it out. We want to learn, see what's behind us, learn from our probably wiser than us ancestors. That's more than a probably. And be in the present. And the future is always in front of us. And we are, to Lisa's point, we're creating our own futures. And as Robin mentioned, through our choices, we're creating our life experiences. And in the work that I've done quite a bit before I met Dr. Folletti, and we've been working on the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, I worked with a very brilliant person that you would love, Lisa, who really learned a lot from indigenous people by the name of Milton Erickson. And Milton Erickson taught me a technique. I studied with him for 4 years, that there's something called age regression, where you go back in time and can communicate with people that are no longer here, or even your past self, people from generations ago. There's also another technique that we collaborated on together called age progression, where you can go out into the future and communicate with your future self and your future generations, and have dialogues and go deep in those conversations, past, present, future, which can really inspire new ideas and new feelings and new experiences and new solutions that you would have never thought of on your own, unless you were dialogued and connected with your age regression and your past influencers, as well as your future influential experiences that you'll have. And that's important. Those are strategies, those are approaches. They all happen naturally anyway, but there's actual techniques you can learn to kind of empower yourself and learn those skills. And the last point I want to make about what Lisa said that's so important is, when people hear put yourself first, even like the oxygen mask or just in everyday life, put yourself, oh, that's selfish. Why would you put yourself first? That's not really a good thing. Well, what we've learned, again, from hundreds of thousands of very wise people from over 100 countries, is to put yourself first and everybody else you care about first right after that. There's no second. You don't have to put anybody else second. You have to put yourself second. Put yourself first. Make sure your self-care is there, and all those selves that Lisa put in, from the self-compassion to the self-love to the self-respect, to the self-advocacy, and here we go, right? All of those. Yes, put yourself first, and then everyone else in your community, in your family, in the world, globally, every country, put them first right after that, because you'll be in a much better place to be able to share and learn and grow together, because we all know the best relationships are the ones we grow in. And that takes us being there for ourselves as well as there for others, but no need to have a first and second. So it's not selfish. Quite the opposite. It's actually selfless when you really get to it.
Beautiful. I love the harmony in this panel. Robin, would you like to chime in as well? Because I know this is a subject dear to your heart, before we move on to the next question, which was a general one and ties into this one as well.
Yeah, I think what's important to understand, and Mara, it kind of goes back to the original quote that you gave us, that we have Paleolithic minds. And it is true that our brains are built in 3 separate sections. And the oldest part of our brain, we call the reptilian brain. And it really only deals with survival, fight, flight, fright, freeze, right? The ways in which we survive. And when we individually do not know that we've been traumatized or hurt or felt like our life was threatened, that lays down tracks within our brain that informs every other part of our existence on this planet. And so in all of these things we're talking about, honoring the wisdom from our past also means understanding the traumas, the ACEs, events that we've had that really create how we respond in the world. So psychological safety, understanding who we are from the most primitive place, before we could even, for some of us, speak or experience the world in any kind of a cognitive way. We're living from trauma first. And I really believe that in today's world of accepting change, accepting the pace of change, accepting the things that are happening on the planet, helping us to get grounded within ourselves, putting on our oxygen mask first, in part means creating for ourselves a sense of psychological safety, because then we're capable of confronting change, experiencing change, adopting change, including things that are going on in the planet from a place of power instead of from a place of trauma or fear or being reactionary.
Nice.
Very nice. Right back at you. Absolutely beautiful. This actually brings us to our second question, which, as I said, is related to the first one. So the question is, as our capabilities continue expanding, how can we ensure that they uplift human dignity for all people? We spoke about it more on an individual level. How about a collective level? I would really encourage you to share your wisdom in short nuggets, please, because we have so much questions to go through, and I would really love to honor the questions in the chat as well. So yes, feel free to unmic. We don't have a specific order. Who wants to chime in?
Briefly, community is so important. As the other presenters have shared, we have a primitive need, a present, a future need for this sense of belonging, to really connect, So everything that the viewers, us, the presenters can do to empower people through community clinics, through community support, in every language that is needed. We need community. We need each other. We're not just emotionally driven beings, we're social beings. And uh, reassurance and support just helps so much. Feeling, as we've mentioned earlier, unconditionally accepted means so much. So it's all of us, consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, past, present, future. We all need to do everything we can to support each other's and support people in communities and people that might not have the same resources as others, to make sure that we are giving to people who will appreciate it more than you could ever realize. Yeah, till you're there and you see how appreciated it is. And when we go into communities and into clinics and into all these different places around the world, we ask questions. What do you feel would help you the most? Because that's where the best answers come from. It's not from us coming in with great ideas or past experience. It's asking them what's really going to help your community, what's going to help here, and then really listening, and then cooperatively together taking action with their solutions, because that's what we've discovered. That's where the best answers come from.
Beautiful. Lisa, you also had a point to make, and then Robin, feel free to chime in.
Everybody
Unmute
counts.
yourself. Yeah.
Everybody counts. Everybody matters. If that's overwhelming to you, then slow down and go inward. Go inward. You don't need to read books. You don't need to watch podcasts. You don't or listen to podcasts. Watch podcasts. Like I said earlier, your job is to develop your self-awareness. That can only be done. It not only be done. I don't want to be narrow here. Your primary relationship is with yourself. So that's what that saying is: put the oxygen mask on first. It doesn't mean selfishness. It means or selflessness. It means being self-fulfilled, fulfillment, or being self-full, so that you can then do something. Yeah, if you try to help people and you're not in and you don't put the mask on yourself, then you're going to suffocate, and you're not really going to be of much help to others. If you read everybody else's books and listen to everybody else's podcasts, and you do your best to memorize what everybody else is saying and then adjust your behavior according to that, you're not really going to help somebody. It's the same thing as like not putting the oxygen mask on. If you care for yourself and you develop your own relationship through respecting that your life force energy is what's governing the suit and animating it every day when you wake up, that has nothing to do with anybody else. And I know it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's just part of the journey to be overwhelmed sometimes, and to be distracted sometimes, and to suffer sometimes. It's just part of all these many faces of love, many aspects of love, many reflections of love, many shapes and forms and color and light and sounds. It's all imagery. It's all audio. It's how everything is created into physicality through space, making sound, sound creating color creating light, light creating, carrying this bandwidth of light, carrying consciousness. These are all technologies I'm talking about too, that what I just said, which is ancient wisdom, inspired us to create fiber optics, inspired us to create all kinds of technology that have both image and sound, from radio to TV to movie theaters to streaming video. It's all those ideas, those concepts came from the human imagination based on creation. So
Lisa, just a quick question. I'm sorry to chime in and interrupt you like this shamelessly. However, I think I speak for many people here who are starting this journey of self exploration. How does one go about going within? What does that even mean? I mean, I've been a meditator since many, many years. I have a little idea of what that means, but I'm guessing many people don't. How do you do that? How do you work on yourself? How do you be self-centered? And I know this is not proper English, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes, how? Where would you start?
Well, first of all, there's nothing to fix, rescue, heal, or save. So there's nothing to work on. You don't, when I look at you, I look at everybody on the planet. I never encounter deficits. That's not what strikes me when the millions of people I've met in this lifetime, no exaggeration. What strikes me first is literally the sound of their life force energy, what's happening at the center of their being. That's what I experience first. So I never experienced people as having a deficit. I never experienced as anyone needing to do work or be worked on, because there really isn't anything to fix, rescue, heal, or save. That's kind of a fear-based duality type of thing. That's just, again, I'm talking from my experience. Something that I learned a long time ago, back in the 80s, was when I used to teach meditation, believe it or not, even in the 80s. I've been teaching it for 40 years now. Start with just the end of your nose. And the reason why you're told to start with putting all of your attention on the end of the nose, because the first thing you're going to learn is whether you can put all of your attention on the end of the nose, and how difficult that can be for some people because they're habitually and familiar with distraction. And so when you put your attention on the end of your nose and then inhale up your nose into your forehead and then into the center of your head, into your pineal and pituitary glands, you're activating this chemical bath, this sound bath, this chemical bath that eternal is internal, and basically wakes you up, generates more consciousness and self-awareness. It's as simple as that. So if all you do is focus on the end of your nose, feeling your inhalation going up your nose into the center of your head, and you sit with that, and you give that your priority, you cultivate single-minded focus, where you let go of all distraction and you put all your attention on just inhalation and then exhaling through the mouth from the heart, emptying your heart out every time you exhale. If you practice that, eventually it becomes, you're familiar with it. It becomes a frequency. It becomes, through repetition, it becomes how you live your life. And so then you're just naturally noticing your inhales, and they're centering you because you're following them into the center of your head. And you notice your exhales, that you're emptying out your heart and, clearing this suit to create more space for more of your presence to pour into it, including what you've imagined futuristically. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Living your life becomes really easy. It's really not a complicated planet. And these suits are beautiful, but they're simple. It doesn't come with operating instructions, these suits, but it's really just what breathing and having your awareness on yourself while you're breathing. Drinking, having your awareness on what you're drinking, and eating, having your awareness on what you're eating. And that's when you talk about sustainability and climate change. Because when you have that consciousness and awareness, then you're creating change all around you, because you're demanding healthier food, healthier water. You're noticing what people are doing to the water, what people are doing to the food, what people are doing to the air.
Yeah, beautiful. Robin, I would also love to hear your wisdom on this before moving on to the next question, please.
I think the internal self-exploration, when we spend so much time thinking what we think of as thinking, because most of it is really recycling old thoughts, a place to get back to ourselves is to honor our body, the physical sense that we've been gifted. So when people talk about meditation or mindfulness even, we're still really talking about the idea of the mind, and we need to redefine that to what our ancestors always knew, that these senses that we bring, that we have, that we're gifted with, bring us back to this moment now. So it's breathing, feeling the senses of the air going in through your nostrils. Where does it go in your body? Being aware of the sound that you're hearing around you. What are you tasting? Everything about getting back to inside of our body first, then brings us to the ability to know who we really are. So it's getting that center and knowing how to do that. And I always think, so this may not sound appropriate, but I always tell people, just feel your butt in the chair. It's the first thing that will get you back to right now. And from there, you can start exploring, okay, right now, who am I? What do I need?
All right, very, very beautiful insights as always. This is the intersection of all this wisdom with technology. So, can you help tech leaders nowadays navigate this whole landscape? And I'm grouping a couple of questions here. I just got a new one who came in. How can tech leaders start to build wisdom into their technological platforms and products? But you can answer a bit broader and also tell me how these tech leaders can reach communities and help them in a sustainable way. Who wants to go first? Oh, Lisa, I was just saying your name while being muted. Go ahead, please.
I wanted to go first because I want to, again, being the technologist on the panel, so when I was doing when I have people do technology pitches to me, which, back in starting the climate change fund, it was all, being the chief technology officer, it was all potential climate change and sustainable technology. And nowadays it's metaverse and liquid neural nets and all kinds of other things that people pitch to me. I turned down 95% of the technical leaders and the technical innovators who were pitching us. And the reason for that is because it became really clear in the first paragraph how conscious that person was, how thoughtful they were. Something that's in the indigenous world is understanding that the impact of every choice you make has 7 generations of impact. And so I always viewed things as in the 7 generations of this, how is this technology going to roll out? And so I sent everybody away with a list of things to do. I didn't say to anyone, you can't come back. I just sent them with a list and said, go inward, generate more consciousness around why are you doing this? Why do you think this technology is important? How do you imagine this technology is going to roll out for the next 7 generations? And how is it going to be used in its next 7 generational iterations? And I gave them this long list and sent them away. I maybe only had 2 people who ever came back. Everybody else kind of floated away to do their own thing. So as far as technology leadership, yes, you can build wisdom into your technology, but that's kind of too general of a question because it depends on what technology you're developing. But you are a technology. So if you're pitching somebody or you're leading a company, then it's really going inward yet again, going inward and being self-sustainable and being self-aware and self-conscious and bringing that to any discussion you're having with anybody on this planet, including cultivating your ability to listen deeply. You don't have to agree with everybody on the planet. Everyone's going to have their own point of view. But respecting everybody is a mirror to how much you respect yourself. Respecting other people's body is a mirror to how much you respect your own body and the body of the planet. Respecting somebody's communication and how they communicate is a mirror to how you communicate yourself and your own perception or your own judgment of how you perceive communication. And we can have a panel for 2 hours just debating the definition of certain words we all love to use, and it's going to be different for each one of us. But you are the crafter and the creator of your own experience. So turn to yourself to self-determine what wisdom means to you and how it applies to your technology and how it applies to your leadership abilities.
Beautiful. Respecting everybody is a mirror of how much you respect yourself. Wow. Again, speechless. Robin, would you like to chime in? Maybe also highlighting from your point of view how these technologies can reach communities more easily, how this all ties into climate. The mic is yours.
Yeah, I think right now we're in a place where the leadership needs to understand the fear factor that's out there with integrating new technologies. And then once the fear factor has been addressed, I think, in the leader and then within their organization, then we can start having real connection. But until the fear is addressed, which I think is where most people are with technology and with climate change, a sense of powerlessness, to use a word, learned helplessness. People feel like they have no power or ability to make a change in the planet, and that gives them a space of, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to sit back. So somehow creating within our systems a language that says, we know you're afraid. We know this could be scary for you to adopt to something that's very, very different or foreign to you. Let's all work on this together because it impacts all of us. Best to do that in community, best to do that human to human, harder on Zoom, harder on through using technology. We feel each other and connect to each other. So that would be my suggestion.
And I was muted again. Brian, I was going to say your name. Can't wait to hear your insights and wisdom for tech leaders and helping them come up with better tech solutions and connect better to communities in need of sustainable solutions. Go ahead. And now you are muted.
Leaders, being caring is so important. And of course, as we've all been agreeing, self-respect is the most important thing because it allows us to respect others. There's also another for tech leaders, having a lot of experience coaching, training tech leaders, that the 24-hour rule. Before you make any major decision, talk to other people about it, and that 24 hours will give you time to integrate the positive aspects, the difficulties, as Robin pointed out, the fears that you may have or others may have. So all big decisions, remember that 24-hour rule. And another point that's been made is that when people want to go inward, it really helps if you just close your eyes, because as soon as you close your eyes, you're not focused on others or what they're thinking about you or what you think they're thinking about you. You go inside. And I think of an example from a person at Kaiser that a person that became the physician of the year, Dr. Al Ray. He came to one of our presentations, Dr. Folletti's and mine at UCSD, at the faculty club at the medical school. And I shared a technique that I developed alongside the ACE study called the closed eye history. So when patients go in, members go in, they tell their history to the doctor. And I suggested that people try the closed eye history, sort of a go inward, meditative, connect with yourself. And he came back the following month at the next meeting saying that a patient he had seen every single week for 20 years, who kept coming in with new problems and new issues from head to toe, a new one she found a way to see him every single week. Obviously, You can guess he's a very caring medical doctor, very fine person, and he showed her care. But every week for 20 years as a high utilizer, and that's expensive for the program, but he's such a great guy. He continued to do it. He did the closed eye history. And in between the meetings, he did this with her. She told her story that he had not heard in 20 years. She did have a trauma as a kid, a car accident with a family. Her sister didn't make it. Her parents removed every picture and every memory of her sister from the walls. They couldn't deal with it. They couldn't talk about it. And this person held it in. Now she's decades later, grown-up size kid, an adult, in a big body, a kid in a big body, so-called adult. And then she told him, with her eyes closed, this story about the daughter. And it's more gruesome than I'm saying, but that's enough information. And after that closed eye history, he didn't see her again for 6 months. Now, he's seen her every week for years and years and years. And then they went to once a year. So just by feeling accepted and being able to go inward, be meditative, don't worry about meditating, be meditative, and really feel heard and got to her trauma and hurt and grief out, the improvement medically, psychologically, physically, spiritually was remarkable. So that's an example of utilizing meditation as healers, as healthcare practitioners, in a way that you may not have thought of. And of course, how I came up with the closed eye history was a combination of Dr. Milton Erickson's influence and Dr. Vincent Folletti's influence, and all of those thousands of participants that, Robin, you remember, as you were one of them. We learned so much, and that's how that approach got developed. So it's being meditative with yourself. And because people don't want to meditate, 20% of people meditate because their mind wanders too much and they don't get the results physically or mentally or emotionally that they expect fast enough. So they give up. So more important than meditating is learning how to be meditative. That's really what you want to get to.
Beautiful. Learning how to be meditative. Fantastic. Wow, we have so many questions, but just from these questions, I think many of them have already been answered, and I also want to be mindful of the time. I actually also had something I really wanted to share with regards to the last questions. A humble insight that I had, a very practical system on how to infuse more wisdom into the day-to-day technological developments for tech leaders. I want to talk very shortly about the system of spiral dynamics. It is a very simple system. I guess many of us have heard of it within the context of corporations and company structures. But not many people pause and think that this system, which is very awesome indeed, can offer a beautiful framework for understanding people's evolving values and worldviews applied in education. And education is something that indirectly we have spoken about today, but I think it's very important to address this. Applying spiral dynamics in education would mean aligning learning environments with students' cognitive development. So, for example, a tech-enhanced schooling solution could really enable exponential yet human-centric learning. And it may foster collaboration over competition via incentives and raise consciousness about, amongst others, interconnectedness. I think it nurtures a more holistic, adaptive, and empathetic learning experience for lifelong personal and collective evolution and development. And I guess we must ultimately draw inspiration from the intelligence of nature, as suggested by Professor Leen Gorison, a Belgian innovation biologist, in order to create a society on a more human and not per se on a tech centric scale. So that was my little insight before we end this panel with one last question. It is an open question, since we had a very free-flowing conversation today, which I'm very happy about. It is an open question to all of you. What wisdom would you like to leave us with? It can be very short, just to close this panel. Or what are your biggest takeaways of the discussion today? Yes, what would you like to tell our listeners as your final words for this panel? I'm looking at Robin right now because she has a beautiful smile. Go ahead.
I haven't muted myself. The words of wisdom are that change doesn't have to be scary. So in adopting new things, there are ways in which we can bring ourselves into alignment with peace and centeredness and love, and then share that wisdom with the rest of the world, and we can together create any change that we want in the planet.
We can come together and create any change. Oh, you are muted. Did you want to add something, Robin? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, and get a cat. Have a cat sit on your lap. That helps.
Oh, I love this. I have one right behind me. Check. Fantastic. Beautiful. Brian, I see you are unmuted. What are your final words of wisdom?
Yes. Well, I love strategies, techniques, methods that work, because from the study and from all the people, how can you help me? What can I keep doing? What's next? So, we've tested and clinically proven all of these for the Enlighten app. And I want to finish with one of my favorite techniques, because I love to give people takeaways and things that they can practice on their own. This is incredibly simple, incredibly powerful. I would say a technique that can help people go deeper into meditation than they maybe have ever gone. Mindfulness, guided imagery, self-hypnosis, any of those. And I will share the credit for this technique with hundreds of thousands of people that have tried it and given me feedback and helped me to develop it, to start off with something really complicated and make it really simple. Okay. So we're breathing anyway. So there's 0 steps. And on your exhales, say your own name to yourself, not out loud, just to yourself. And say your own name on your exhales for 5 or 10 breaths. If you do this for 5 minutes, you'll go deeper into meditation than you probably have ever gone in your life or ever even imagined. You can say your first name. You can say your first and last name. You can say your first, middle, and last name. Be creative, be playful, do whatever you like. Try them all. And on your exhales, just say your own name to yourself. And within moments, you will be much more relaxed, much more at ease. Now, I've taught this to NFL place kickers with 70,000 people screaming, miss it. I've taught this to Olympic athletes. I've taught this to people, as Robin knows, at Kaiser, from morbidly obese to anorexic to bulimic to addicted to just about everything ever imaginable. So that's the takeaway. That's the how-to. That's the, okay, what's next? How can I practice all this wisdom that we've been sharing together from Lisa, Robin, and Mara, from you as well, and from Christina, who set all this up, and Carlos, who's supporting us. That would be the gift that we can give to ourselves. And that's my last point.
Thank you so much, Brian. Very helpful indeed. And it's very calming. It's very peaceful. I've tried it. So amazing. the last words are for you, Lisa. What are the last words of wisdom that you wish to share on this panel?
It's up to you whether you want to be afraid of technology and afraid of the future. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid? Break it into something digestible, easily digestible for yourself. As you start to hear words like liquid neural network and neuromorphic computing, just break it into what is it really about? Our understanding of space is growing. Our understanding of liquid is growing. Our understanding of the role water plays in our body is growing. Our understanding of mind, body, spirit is growing. And so it's influencing the direction we evolve our technologies. It doesn't mean our technologies are mechanical in nature. It's the software that's evolutionary. They're all organic. Any kind of hardware will disintegrate if you stick it outside in the wind and the rain and the desert long enough. And software does outlive us. I realized when I worked on genetic algorithms back in the 90s that what I was coding was going to live longer than me, and that people were going to build on it. And so you set it free and it gets built on. But, you learn to trust yourself. And if each person self-cultivates their own trust of themselves, then you start to trust your choices. You start to be trustworthy. You start to earn people's trust. And pretty soon you're trusting and you're just finding you're not afraid anymore. And there's nothing to be afraid of because, of course, we're going to learn more about our sun and solar energy and our moon and lunar energy and our earth. The earth's body is gazillions of years old. The human body right now, if we're lucky, it lasts 100 years. The body we live on, called the earth, which hosts and supports all of this life, it's millions of years old. So, we're a spark of intelligence and a spark of a body that's temporal in nature, which means anything you may be worried about is temporary. And so if it's consuming you, if certain feelings are consuming you, if certain thoughts are consuming you, then change your frequency, meaning what you frequently are reading, what you frequently are eating, what you frequently are watching, what you're frequently conversing about. Maybe change what you're frequently doing, and that changes your frequency. That opens up other options because we're living in the age of options. The next decade, everything's changing. Our poles are shifting. Energy is moving from north to south. Dynamics are moving economically from north to south. There's lots of stuff going on. But, a lot of it was preordained, meaning that our ancestors kind of left these records of things they thought were going to happen. I don't know. But the bottom line is navigating your own personal fear. Let everybody else alone to navigate their own personal fear. If you want to be fearful, great. If you don't want to be fearful, great. It's just an experience. It's temporary in nature. Just do your, I ask myself every day, am I doing my best? Like when I go to the grocery store, I say, am I doing my best? When I'm loading my grocery cart up, I go to the farmer's market, am I doing my best? I take my time, pick out my vegetables. Am I buying the best water? I research companies. I don't vote in the US. I'm not a US citizen. But I vote with my money. And so, you just pay attention to yourself. And that's called self-respect. And you will build up a new frequency of trusting yourself and trust in yourself. And pretty soon it will emanate into trusting what's happening in the world. It won't be so scary anymore. It's really just us exploring our resources and this planet that's hosting us, and how things are organized, our authentic intelligence.
I'm always speechless after your interventions, Lisa. I don't even know how to summarize this. It hit me energetically or something. But beautiful. That's all I can master the courage to say. Wow,
I think
amazing.
title for me, technology interventionist. I'm going to
Beautiful. Yes, as we conclude this thought-provoking expedition through the intersection of humanity and technology, let's not forget that the future isn't just a destination. It's a journey of profound self-discovery. And I guess this is the best I can summarize this panel as. Don't forget that this is not the end of this amazing Tech Leadership Lab Summit. This only marks the end of part 1 on this last day. We will be back in 2 hours here, same place, for the grand finale, which will be a round table summarizing the whole summit for you. I will also be part of that panel. In the meantime, while you wait, we, of course, could not accept boredom from you. So we came up with a really nice quiz and a survey that you can take with regards to this topic. So stay tuned for that one as well. And another last thing I wanted to say is that, well, I wanted to thank you all. This is more than I could ever hope for. We have received so much wisdom. I need to review my notes and meditate on this and try to infuse all this wisdom, I guess. It was very inspiring indeed. As Yangbo says in the comments, I agree. I want to thank you, my dear panelists, Dr. Brian Allman, thank you so much. Dr. Robin Rice, thank you. And Lisa Atkins, thank you so much. Atkinson, sorry, what am I saying? It is the end of the panel. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you to all the viewers for being with us, for all your awesome comments and questions, and for supporting us. I am left without words, truly, which is not ideal for a moderator, so I'm doing my best here. I'm going to end this first part here, leaving you with a nice video to watch. And I will see you all again in 2 hours. See you soon. Bye-bye.
In a world yearning for change, there exists a community of visionaries and innovators, united by a common goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. From climate action to quality education, we're tackling all 17 Sustainable Development Goals reassembled as 10. We embody sustainability, unity, and empathy. Our character and reliability shine as beacons of hope. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.